Welcome back to this segment of After the Buzzer. Today, we'll be talking about the DeAndre Hopkins situation, as of course he got released just about a week ago from the Arizona Cardinals. We've seen what teams he'll be going to. Today we're going to start with an honorable mention of the New York Jets. Obviously, with the Aaron Rodgers coming into the scene in New York, obviously lots of receivers want to go play with him. They had the Odell Beckham thing. Everybody thought that Odell Beckham was a guaranteed Jet. Even picked his number even, but something happened there. They have Garrett Wilson, standout receiver, rookie of the year. They got a veteran Randall Cobb, but I would love to see the Jets go out and get a third guy, and that'd be great for DeAndre Hopkins.
So that's definitely an interesting, I think, start point. But the problem for Hopkins and the Jets is that I don't think that they are a team built to go out and get DeAndre Hopkins. They had a good defense last year. It was the focal point of their team. And I think they're going to want to have better receivers, but do you think they're going to take the risk of adding a guy like Hopkins?
All right, so I think the big thing is this is Aaron Rodgers' team. Obviously, the Jets do have a GM and they do have an owner, but I think they made the executive decision to kind of turn the reins over to Aaron Rodgers when they let him come. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is a veteran quarterback. You saw with the Packers the last couple of years. The conflict between the Packers GM and Aaron Rodgers obviously kind of pushed him out of that team. Obviously, the Packers would not draft a receiver in the first round. I don't know what they were doing there, but it's past that. But the Jets kind of decided, getting Randall Cobb, putting an offer sheet out for Odell Beckham Jr., looking for Mercedes Lewis, all of Aaron Rodgers, old teammates on the Packers. This is really up to if Aaron Rodgers wants to make this move, and you could see him wanting to make this move, but I don't know how much heart the Jets owner and GM want to put, how they feel about this. So I think that the top 7 teams on this list that we have are more likely, the GM and the owner themselves are more likely to want to go to get DeAndre Hopkins than the Jets owners.
Yeah, that's what I think as well, and that's why the Jets are kind of reduced to an honorable mention here. But definitely worth mentioning. So I'm going to give this one a grade of a C. Definitely possible, not a failing grade, but not ideal. How about you?
I would give it a C, maybe a C plus, B minus, depending on what Aaron Rodgers feels about the situation. Obviously, he hasn't talked anything about DeAndre Hopkins.
All right, so our number 7 is the Ravens, and I'll introduce that one. Obviously, Lamar Jackson wants to get that 6,000 passing yard mark at some point in his career, and what better time to do it than this year? Obviously, having DeAndre Hopkins added to the receiver core of the Ravens would be really helpful for Lamar. And right now, the Ravens are at a cap space of about $12 million, which would certainly be enough to get Hopkins on a one-year deal, but long-term for Lamar Jackson, I don't really think it's the best option. Still better than the Jets. I'll give him a C+.
I actually like this offer. I mean, obviously, they got Odell Beckham Jr. They have Rashad Bateman. Although he did kind of fall out of the picture after his standout rookie year last year. Obviously Mark Andrews, but Lamar Jackson always wants more weapons. The whole crisis with if Lamar Jackson was going to be a Raven week 1 this year. So I would go B minus here, considering what Ryan talked about with the salary cap. It's really hard just to really say that the Ravens have enough money. But you see with the Saints, like I said in the first episode, they just managed to, and these NFL teams just managed to make more space. Obviously, Dolphins going out and getting Jalen Ramsey this year. I mean, where is this money coming from? We don't really know. But I think the Ravens. I don't really think this is a salary cap issue. I think this is an issue of how much they're going to let Lamar Jackson take over the reins of this team. Kind of the same thing with Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. I'm going to give this about a B minus.
Yeah, no, that's also a really good point because the Ravens and Lamar, they're not on great terms right now. He just had a holdout, so I don't know how confident they're going to be in letting him take the reins here. But what about the Cowboys?
Obviously, Jerry Jones, really aggressive GM. They got Brandon Cooks earlier in this year. It didn't take that much to go get him. I think it was around a 6th-round pick. Brandon Cooks, obviously a speed threat, playmaker, get the ball in his hands. He makes play. CeeDee Lamb, great route runner, runs some of the best routes in the NFL. Great hands. Obviously, Tony Pollard, great running back. Dak Prescott, with all the questions around him, is still, I would say, top 15, top 10 quarterback. And, they're ready. Even Michael Gallup, they're ready to win. The Cowboys fan base and Jerry Jones is tired of these wild card exit, division round exits, having all this hype going into the year, and then kind of just like falling flat on their face towards the end of the year. I think having that consistent number one receiver, obviously they just had Amari Cooper not that long back, but I think that having that deep threat receiver. And DeAndre Hopkins, go up, get that 50-50 balls, maybe make this offense a little more explosive for the Cowboys, a little more consistent. I'm going to give this one, I'm going to B plus actually. I mean, the Cowboys, they currently have a good amount of cap space, $25 million. I think that they could reasonably make, I don't know, D-Hop wants $13-14 million a year. They can easily, really reasonable get this. So I would give this a B plus A minus actually for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of there with you. I think this is a good signing for them. Again, this is actually, I think, really likely because Jerry Jones does like making a splash consistently every offseason. And I think Hopkins, he's obviously played in Texas with the Texans before, but more importantly, I think the emphasis of winning now is important. And, the Ravens and Jets have good shots, but I think the Cowboys are in a good position walking into next year. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think the Eagles are obviously better than them, but we talk about wanting to win playoff games. We talk about, wanting to get over that hump. What better team to do that than with Dallas? So I'm giving it a B+. I think I'm a little lower on it than Graham is, but I'm high on the Eagles because I think Jalen Hurts, really a guy that DeAndre Hopkins wants to play with. He said in multiple podcast appearances that he would be open to playing with Jalen Hurts, would actually like it. And, the Eagles, the only issue that they'd have is that right now they don't have a ton of cap space, but again, they have $12.5 million, which isn't too bad. So they could get something done. It would probably be a one-year deal. That would be a little lower than Hopkins would otherwise like, but I would definitely say that the Eagles are a likely landing spot for Hopkins. I'm going to give it an A-.
All right. I can see this too. Obviously, he did say in an interview that he loves Jalen Hurts. Definitely can see this. These are obviously the the defending NFC champions. I mean, we're really came really close in the Super Bowl. Really was a second half away from a Super Bowl championship. Jalen Hurts just got that that huge contract from the Eagles. He's going to be there for a while. Obviously, they got A.J. Brown last offseason, so their GM is clearly not scared of making the move for a receiver. And I did notice that, I think Quez Watkins was their third receiver last year a lot of the time. Obviously, having A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert when he's healthy is a great trio, but adding DeAndre Hopkins along with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith makes this one of the elite receiving cores to go along with a good running game. Obviously, they did lose Miles Sanders in the running back position, but, this is still a great receiving core. They did lose some spots on the defense, but still a great defense. If DeAndre Hopkins really wants to win, I mean, why don't you go to a team that just made the Super Bowl last year? I would give this about an A-.
Yeah. What do you think about our next team on the list, which is the Buffalo Bills?
Obviously, he also, DeAndre Hopkins also said that, he would love playing with Josh Allen. They're ready to win a Super Bowl right now, and they're ready to push the envelope. They have consistently fallen short in the playoffs, for one thing or another. It's hard to get past this Kansas City Chiefs team, and obviously the Cincinnati Bengals are right there. Josh Allen has something to prove, too. I would still say he's the number 2 quarterback in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes, but, there's some quarterbacks getting there. Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow. I mean, you could throw Justin Herbert in the conversation, I wouldn't say, but, you could throw him in there. On Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins would be an amazing duo receiver for Josh Allen, who's obviously one of the most explosive quarterbacks in the NFL, possibly has the best arm in the NFL. And this Bills offense also became stagnant last year, as you can see in the playoffs. So having another explosive option is just Josh Allen. He loves to throw the ball up, 50-50 balls. Having that guy along with Gabe Davis to go up and get that 50-50 ball, who's, more talented than Gabe Davis. I think that maybe the Bills could push the envelope there.
So I'm actually going to disagree with you on this one. I think the Bills are not a great landing spot for Hopkins. I think when we look at the philosophy of their team heading into next season, they lost in the playoffs this year because their defense could not contain Cincinnati. And even in the wildcard game where they beat Miami barely, which was pretty bad showing by them. They were getting torched by Skylar Thompson. So I'm honestly, I'm gonna say if I'm the Bills, I'm focusing more on the running game and defense walking into next season. Josh Allen's a great quarterback, and Stephon Diggs would benefit from a bit of help. So Hopkins wouldn't subtract, but I think they don't have a ton of cap space. They're towards the bottom of the list. They only have around $7 million, and I don't think that's enough to even get a 1-year deal out of Hopkins. So give me a B- here for the Bills. I really don't like this one if I'm Brandon Beane or Sean McDermott.
All right. I get it. So we're gonna move on to the third one. The New England Patriots. Obviously, Patriots. They came out a report that they're really interested in getting him. So, it's just the thing about like Bill Belichick's philosophy with receivers. I mean, he doesn't seem to love the explosive receiver that DeAndre Hopkins is. I mean, just like not that long ago, we were like pretty convinced that Mac Jones wouldn't be the quarterback from the Patriots next year, and this Patriots team is about the run game. Ramondre Stevenson, about the they get good production out of fine backs. They have good O-line. And their defense is where they were really excel. You saw them go into the draft, go get Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon with the 17th pick, I believe. Boost in the secondary. Matthew Judon? Yeah, Matthew Judon is a great linebacker. They're built around their defense. They're built about slowing the game down. And I think that the Patriots wouldn't benefit from DeAndre Hopkins, considering it speeds the game up. Kind of makes Mac Jones, I feel like it might make him force the ball a little bit next year. Maybe put a little more of a spotlight on Mac Jones to get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins instead of having somebody like Juju Smith-Schuster, who, Mac Jones is going to miss a couple throws. I mean, it's less on him maybe and more on the connection because, So I would give this deal, I don't know, C+, B-, kind of the same thing that Ryan was talking about with the Buffalo Bills. Just doesn't seem to fit their kind of mojo. They're obviously 16, around the Eagles, so they could get a year deal done. They also got some flexible contracts, things that they can move around. And Bill Belichick, obviously, mastermind. But I don't see DeAndre Hopkins in the Patriots uniform come next year.
Yeah, I also don't know how much Belichick's going to trust Mac Jones to throw it up to someone like Hopkins. I think we know for a fact that Bill Belichick doesn't exactly love Mac Jones. He also doesn't love, speeding the game up. And we also know that Belichick doesn't love speeding the game up, and that I think would detract from any potential chemistry between Jones and Hopkins. So, he'd be great to have for Jones to throw to, but I think he would also know that his potential there would be kind of capped pretty significantly. And we'd also likely see him, not really being in a competitive position with the AFC East. Obviously, Dolphins and Bills much better. As even the Jets too now with Aaron Rodgers, I think are much better than the Patriots. I think that's not really a spot he wants to be. So that brings us to the final two teams, which are the Browns and the Chiefs. And Graham, which team do you think would be a better fit for Hopkins, and which team do you predict to actually end up getting him in these coming weeks?
All right, so I would actually say the Chiefs are the better options for DeAndre Hopkins. Patrick Mahomes is a generational quarterback, gets the ball in the receiver's hands, get him moving. Obviously showed he's still a superstar talent, even with Juju Smith-Schuster being his number one receiver. Didn't skip a beat after trading away Tyreek Hill. Obviously, everybody thought that he would take a step back. Patrick Mahomes just, makes plays. And having DeAndre Hopkins would be amazing. Obviously, the Chiefs have freed up some of their cap room, through lots of trades and stuff. It's still not great. So, obviously, the Chiefs, they're still about, only $1 million over the cap. They're actually probably the worst cap situation, but obviously, the cap situation in the NFL doesn't matter too much. People make moves all the time. So I think the Chiefs would be an amazing destination for DeAndre Hopkins, but he seems like he wants to play with the Cleveland Browns. He seems to be friends with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson always can turn that corner. They were friends together in Texas. They had a good chemistry with each other before Bill O'Brien, Bill O'Brien did. And it seems like, play with Amari Cooper would be a great duo in Cleveland. And for Cleveland, this would be a great move. You push the envelope, just like what the Bills were doing. Obviously, you've been super disappointing last year. You thought this was a play-on team easily. You hope to get better progression on the defense, but you also hope that this passing game that Browns relied on a lot last year, surprisingly, they would obviously benefit from DeAndre Hopkins, and hopefully this team could turn a corner and make a play at the AFC North.
Yeah, so the only problem I think with that is that the AFC North is really, I guess to address the Browns first, the AFC North is stacked because you have the Bengals, who I think right now are slightly the best team in the AFC, just by a little bit. Obviously, the Browns with Hopkins would be competitive with the Bengals, but the Bengals would still be a better team, I would say for sure. The Ravens, I think, are still better than the Browns no matter what. Obviously, the Lamar Jackson drama definitely hurt them, but at the end of the day, this is a team that, as we talked about in the last episode, especially Graham, he's very high on the Ravens. And even the Steelers, who I don't really think are going to be that good. I like Kenny Pickett. I think he's a good talent. And if Hopkins wants to win, I think being in that division is probably the worst one he can choose in the AFC. Obviously, the AFC South, which we didn't really talk about, isn't too competitive. AFC East is competitive between the Bills and the Dolphins, and to an extent the Jets. But I think Hopkins, if he went to, the Bills, would kind of give them the edge there. And so the Browns, to me, in theory, are appealing, but I don't really see it. And I think that they have a lot of their own concerns they want to deal with on the defensive side of the ball, because last year their defense had a lot of bad moments. So I like the Chiefs. Again, if I were to give the Browns a grade, I'd probably give them a B+, because it's not a bad idea at all, just not my preference. But the Chiefs get an A. The Chiefs love signing these types of veteran guys to go and win a Super Bowl, whether it's LaShawn McCoy, Damian Williams. We saw it with even guys like Calvin Benjamin, who are obviously much less talented than DeAndre Hopkins. So I would say this is a good spot for them. They don't have a ton of cap room, but like Graham said, the cap doesn't matter too much, because I'm sure they could get a deal done if Hopkins really wanted to play in Kansas City. I'm sure that could be arranged. And so Mahomes, to me, is going to make the most of whatever he gets. Obviously, they don't have Juju anymore, so, Travis Kelce's going to be definitely his number one guy, and he's going to have a more pronounced role than he's ever had before. But having DeAndre Hopkins, I think, would be great for both Mahomes and Hopkins, and if he wants to win now, what better place to do it than the team that just won the Super Bowl? So Chiefs get an A here, and I think they're the most likely team to get Hopkins. I think he fits them really well, and he kind of fits the breed of previous guys who have landed in Kansas City later on in their careers. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. And Graham, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. It's really interesting to see where he ends up. I think that there's many teams across the league, even teams that we didn't mention, that would benefit. That not only DeAndre Hopkins, but the team itself would benefit a lot from his contributions. So it's interesting to see where it'll end up.